Hey everyone, another weekly video. I'll be going over around 10 to 12 coins that I'm currently looking at and my thoughts and ideas on them. I'm not going to be taking all of these plays. Most of these coins are coins that I'm positioned in already, given in the Discords, but I'm going to go over them and then talk about basically ETH and the ETH betas because if ETH continues to run, then I expect the betas to run as well. Then we'll take a look at dominance and see how that plays into all of this. But basically, my thoughts going into the next few weeks. So let's just jump into it. So first things first, we'll take a look at Bitcoin here. And it's not a surprise that we rejected where we did, right? We had resistance and we rejected right from the line. It's also a supply area, so rejected where we did, and then we came back and bounced from the daily order block, right? So now that we have this bounce from the order block, it's actually now a demand zone. See how we came back, bounced into it, back into the supply zone, rejected, back down here. We're currently holding it. My thought process is that we actually go down to the lows here around 66, and then we take those out. So if I were to draw this, it will look something like this. Let me just remove these lines. That's no longer resistance. So we have these lows here. Okay. Support, right? We came back down. So if this is our current range, right? If these are our lows and these are our highs for last week, then we're just going to play this range, right? Like if this was our range, we were just playing here with a deviation. So I'm looking for a move down to here, take out the lows, reclaim, and then back to the highs. Okay, that was a very weird drawing. Let's try that again. So move down, okay, take out these lows. Here is an order block as well. Okay, so basically I'm looking for this kind of setup. Entry around 66 to 50-ish. Okay, we'll DCA in one of two different ways. Okay, if we don't get the DCA at the bottom of this zone here, which is around 65, 150-ish or 100-ish. Okay, but the setup will look something like this. Right. So entry around 66 to 100-ish or 150-ish. DCA at 65, 150. And then our stop loss is going to be around 60 or a little bit below 64K. And we'll be targeting highs. All right. New all-time high. So the reason is if we don't get this DCA, if let's say you get entry, right, and we come and we take out these lows and we continue to go a little bit further down this demand zone, but we don't fully get their DCA, then you will add more to your position once this level here is reclaimed. Okay, you can add more to your position, basically more at entry. Or the second part, if this reclaim doesn't happen, here is our current SR point. You will add more once this basically 68K level is reclaimed, and then we go higher. Okay, so you're going to set limit bids here around 66, 150. Okay, it most likely will go down to take out this wick here, grab the liquidity. We have this demand zone here that hasn't been tested like fully, so that's why I'm placing my bids here around the 66 sorry, 65. Let's draw that line out. Okay, 65, 172-ish. So entry would be there around 66, 150. DCA down there, and then if we don't get this DCA here, right? We come back, sweep some liquidity down here, go back up, reclaim, add more to our position size, have the same exact stop loss. You will have this DCA just in case. That is your only DCA point. And then if we continue to go higher, and if we reclaim this one, then you're going to place your, or you're going to average up and add more to your position here. Okay. Now this would set up for an inverse head and shoulders pattern. Right, here's the neckline, right? Here is your left shoulder, head, and then come back into your right shoulder. And technical targets for this inverse head and shoulders is actually going to be like 84K. I think I've mentioned this before, right? 85K. Now, not only that, but we would be putting in another. Right, here is your higher low. Here's your higher high. We put another higher low as well. So all signs point to that being a good entry. If I were to also draw fibs, let's say we take it from here to the top. I know that the fibs come back down, but you can have multiple fibs. And if we take it from, like, let's say this low here, then again, right? It's a great bounce point before our stop loss. I'm going to remove that because I'm not using the fibs there. I like to play the demand or the SR point along with the supply and demand zone. Here's the demand zone. Here's the supply zone. And this would be a more of a swing play. The risk is pretty managed. It's about a 5-hour trade. I'm basically targeting highs. So if I were to place this here, almost a 4-hour trade. If we take the inverse head and shoulders pattern all the way to like the 85K, it's a simple almost 8.5 hour trade. The risk is managed, as I mentioned, and TP1 would come, back here at the supply zone. Okay, TP2 would be these highs here, and then you'd hold for higher. Now, once we break that, we're in price discovery. So you would have to draw extension fibs to see the possible TP points. My TP here is just a technical target of the inverse head and shoulders, so that's why I have that drawn. Okay, but your TP would be the highs, the supply zone again, most likely, around this wick here, so around 70.5K, and then higher. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for Bitcoin. And I did mention, on Twitter, in the Discords, that during this whole entire process, and even still currently, Bitcoin spot, this is Coinbase, this first one, all right? Bitcoin spot is still not leading, okay? That means that perps are heavily over leveraged. And if you see funding fees on these coins, you will see a more than normal funding fee. So like coins don't have that neutral 0.01. It's usually like 0.02 or higher. Now the higher that gets in positive, okay, it just means that you're paying to hold these long positions, whereas if you were short, you're getting paid by the longs to basically keep the short positions. So more people are long than they are short. That's why it's mostly positive. So so this not leading, okay, this being what is that, like $60 below the perps, is a little bit still concerning. When I posted it, it was around 68.5, 68.6. Yes, we went to 7.5, but then we dumped, and we still are not leading. So that's why I'm expecting that 66K to be taken out. So it's just a lagging indicator, one that I've been using a lot and minimizing my risk with. All right. I also did post this chart in all the discords with the cheat sheet. Okay, I haven't updated this chart. Okay, so here's the range highs. It was previously like we were here when I made it. Okay, so if we're above this line, above this 69K, we're bullish. Anything in between is chop, right? And this is range lows. If we close below and turn to resistance, we are bearish, right? If we were to fast forward again, notice how we bounced from range lows, deviation, again, turned to support, went higher. It was choppy, and then again, we went above, failed to hold, and now we're just resisting from this little resistance point or rejecting from it. All right. So this has still stayed true this whole entire time. As long as we are below 69K to 61.5, we just expect chop. The other indicator that we currently are looking at is USDT dominance. So when this is bullish, okay, it's risk off for the crypto, or you should be risk off, okay, because if USDT dominance is increasing, then more people are stabled up, whereas if it's going down, more people are putting their stables or their USDT into crypto and just holding or trading it. In this case, on May 2nd or May 1st, we rejected, and then the market continued to grind a little bit higher, right? We came to support, bounced a little bit, and as of Monday, May 20th, that's when ETH pumped as well, right? The whole dominance went down. I mean, people were deploying their stables and getting into not only ETH but other coins as well, and the market went up a little bit higher, right? We had a bearish retest of this trend line and then continued to dump, so that's why the market still continued higher. Now, what I expect for dominance to do is to just take one more dip into this little demand zone, okay? Around 4% down to, actually 4.1 down to 4%. And then possibly, the lowest it goes is to put in a double bottom and then make its way up. Okay, then we have an Adam and Eve pattern, which is double bottom pattern. And then I expect, a harsh rejection in crypto. Now, that 4% down to 3.7% should send Bitcoin and everything a little bit higher, hopefully all-time highs. And then, as I mentioned, around 80 to 81K, I expect a harsh rejection. ETH would be around 4,300. I had a detailed explanation about ETH in my last video. But I expect one move up and then a harsh rejection, and then cycle topping out around Q2 of next year. Okay, it could be earlier, but this is where you don't want to marry your bags. You want to, take profit on the way up. And if you are, in my DMs asking me when to take profit after 20% move, you should have already taken it or are already due. I won't answer DMs like that. You should be making your own decisions. And a 20% move unleveraged is a lot of money, and you should be happy and at least secure some profits and move stop loss break even. Okay. Now, taking a look at ETH, plans have currently changed. Originally, I would have loved a dip into the 33 down to 3100 level. I don't think we get that. We have liquidity here. So from 3640 down to 3500 is where I would love ETH to come back down to, okay, and then continue higher, and hopefully take out these highs, and I think it will. I did mention that this is a supply zone for ETH. Okay, so move into that liquidity pocket, grind back up here, and then hopefully, take out these highs and then dump back down. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. This is a bull market. I'm not looking for short setups. I'm looking for pullbacks. If it does go into there, I don't care. I'm not going to short anything. I'd rather wait for a 20% retrace and then get long again. I'd just be sitting on the sidelines watching people liquidate themselves over 2%, 3% moves. All right, so that's what I'm looking for on ETH basically. Now, if we don't get that move into that liquidity pocket, I mentioned this in my last video, I want these highs to be flipped to support, and then I will take a long scalp whenever that may be. Stop loss hasn't been really given yet because I need more data. But let's say if we did flip it, my stop loss would be tight, and I'm targeting basically like 42, 4300 for a quick 2.5 hour trade. Okay, so that would have to be a little bit more patience, but this resistance level needs to be flipped, and then we go from there. All right, otherwise I'm expecting bids. Now I'm trading this on spot. If you're gonna take it on leverage, figure out your own stop loss, but entry around 3640 down to 3500, and then targeting 40 to 4300. Okay, we are already long from 3100-ish. I gave this to everyone in the Discord, so we are actually up nicely in profits. Our TP1 did hit. TP2 is around 4,000, so we're almost there, but I would love to recompound my entry, and once we do that, it should bring our entry to around here-ish. Again, still great trade, and we will TP everything around 42, 4300. Okay, that's ETH. Now, when ETH runs, I'm looking at its betas to run as well. Okay, so its betas are going to be basically Pepe is going to be one of them. All right, this has been showing extreme strength and making all-time highs. So I expect this to continue running. If ETH continues to run higher, this will run higher as well. But basically, ETH, OP, Optimism, LDO. I'm looking into Floki and Dogecoin as well. Now, Doge is not an ETH beta, but if Pepe runs, like the dog coins will run as well. Stupid dog with a hat and all of its bullshit did its job, but Floki still hasn't made all-time highs. I'm expecting a move back into the original meme coin, Dogecoin, so we'll go over that. But with ETH running, I'm taking a look at its betas as well. Okay, but before we jump into that, let's take a look at Sol. Now, Sol has a lot of controversy around its TA and price action. Okay, it's one of the coins that hasn't made its all-time highs yet. Right, its all-time highs is around depending where you're taking a look at, let's say 260. Okay, let's go to a lower time frame, and we have the highs here around 210ish. Right, made a lower high, came back down. Right, made another lower high. What if this was, again, this is purely off speculation and other people's analysis. I'll give my analysis for it as well. But what if this was the high here, and then it comes back down, makes another lower high, breaks structure, and then just corrects under $100, right? You have all this liquidity here. What if it just goes for that, all right? And then people are going to start giving up. This will look exactly like Bitcoin, right? So here is the highs. So if I were to go back to Bitcoin, and we take a look at the daily here, right? Here is the highs, right? And then again, and then it comes back down, takes all of this liquidity here, and then starts its next impulse up, right? Or we go a little bit further back, okay, highs, right? This one made new highs. Sol hasn't done that yet, but then it comes back down, takes all of this, consolidates before the next leg up, right? I'm more inclined to think if we were to go down, anything from 120 down to about $90 is for buying before it consolidates and then continues to go higher. Okay, but I personally don't think that happens unless Bitcoin goes to like 45k-ish, or even 52k-ish. But right now, all the liquidity is in ETH and the betas. Okay, so for Sol, and we have a little bull flag action here as well. Okay. I am looking at a bearish Quasimodo pattern. So with that, let me just grab the chart so you guys can see. Let's do one sec. All right, let's place this here. Okay. So here's our neckline. Okay. We have higher high, right? Higher low, higher high, higher low. Then we have the higher high. Here's the neckline. If this was, and I go based off candle bodies, not the wicks, but it's still here. If this was your last higher high, or sorry, higher low, here is your lower low. We go up and reject from here, reject from the lower high, putting another lower high, and then we go down. Okay, so if that's the case, we do have supply. Okay, and we can actually take this here. There's an order block. Supply, right? Rejection, and then if we were to draw fibs here as well, right? The highest I personally see it going is back into this supply. Okay, until the liquidity comes back into ETH and everything else, or sorry, into altcoins away from ETH and comes back into all these coins, then I'm looking at a rejection here back to this demand zone and order block here. Okay, so it's at that point it would be putting in another higher low here, right? Because here's this, right? And this would be another impulse. If this was your higher low, this was your higher high, come back down, put another higher low here. We have this order block. We have a trend line confluence, okay? And then if I were to draw fibs from this low to this high here, you have your golden pocket as well. All right. So I would personally be bidding if we were to get a pullback. 146, let's say, let's front run because everyone's looking at this. So if we were to take it from here, right, 146.4, let's do 146 point, well, it depends. I mean, as long as we stall and going higher, then the trend line moves higher and higher. But for now, let's just do 146.7, okay? Stop loss would be below the previous higher low, so let's do here. Okay, and then if it does come back down, doesn't matter how high I draw this, it doesn't really matter. You're taking profits at levels of resistance or whenever you're happy with it. So TPs are to be determined, but that's what I'm looking for Sol. Okay, one more highs into here. If Bitcoin consolidates and ETH runs, then altcoins will run as well. But move up to here and then a deep there. So if you are looking to short, basically 173 up to 182 would be shorts. Stops above this wick. If this level of 174, 175 gets flipped to support, you can cut your short out for a small loss. Okay. And then short a little bit higher around the golden pocket, around 178 to 179. Okay. So that's what I'm looking for on Sol. Let's jump into the Dogecoins. We'll start off with Pepe first. Okay. So when a coin goes into price discovery, it always gets. I mean that point of or that high always gets touched. Okay. What do I mean by that? So if let's say this was the high, right? We broke out. if you are not like, here's the breakout, right? Then we came back down. If you're not considering this the retest, okay, fine. Here is the touch that got or the retest point that got filled, right? If this is your high, there's the retest point. Okay, so this is continuously making new highs. It is in price discovery still. In terms of trying to find an entry, you would have to go to a low time frame. I mean, if you go daily, it could take time to play out. But let's go to a lower time frame, say the 4 hour. Now, you have clear resistance on an uptrend, and you have clear support. Okay, it's just a little rising channel. Now, if this were to break down, retest, and reject, then you're looking for lower levels. Okay, the first level that you're going to be looking for is this support area. Okay, again, probably have to go to a more lower time frame, but it's still making higher highs and higher lows, meaning uptrend is intact. But this is your demand zone first. Okay, it doesn't mean it's going to happen, but it could front run and get this one. Here is your demand zone per my definition. Okay, here's your textbook definition. So there is two areas where we could bounce from. Again, put in another higher low and then continue the grind higher, right? As long as a coin is in price discovery, you typically don't want to short until there is substantial evidence or data to give you that short. So if you were to draw extension fibs, then yes, you're basically gambling in hopes of it rejecting somewhere. But once it breaks all-time highs, typically it continues to run. All right. So if you're looking for exposure to Pepe, and again, my analysis is that I expect us for ETH to go and fill out this liquidity pocket, then these are the two areas that you are going to be wanting to add. Okay, so I'll put those there. So 14446 down to 1389, and then your final DCAs would come in this demand zone here. Okay. However you want to spread them out, your entries should always be the lightest and then you DCA heavier. So I personally would go, if I was taking this play, 15%, 20%, 20%, and then the final DCA would be the remainder of my bids. Okay, so that's for Pepe. Now let's take a look at Floki, right? I gave this to everyone yesterday or 2 days ago, depending on which time zone you guys are in. Okay, and same thing here, right? This took out the highs, retested. Here was the highs, we broke out, retested, went higher. Okay, now this coin has not gone into price discovery, right? Like Dog with a Hat did for a little bit and came back down. Here is the highs for Floki. All right. If Pepe went into price discovery, I'm expecting profits to flow from this into Floki. We are already up 20% or we were up 20% from our entries yesterday. We do have demand zone here. Okay. My DCAs have changed. So if you are taking this play, your DCAs are going to be now 23,382. Okay, and then 21,618. Okay, you can have a final DCA in this order block here. Let's make that black. Okay, so those are your DCAs. When I gave the call out here, I wasn't expecting a huge move like that. I was hoping we can come back down to the trend line, but we just blew out. So if we do get a retrace, this is where your DCAs are going to be. Okay, this may actually get, depending on how low we go, we may actually hold this area, right? It was previously resistance, right? And now we are flipping it to support. If we here, if this is resistance, right, we broke out. This candle's coming and retesting this area, closing above. So depending on how well ETH and Bitcoin hold, we could hold here and just continue to grind from here. Now I took a little bit of profits from my position, only 10%. I'm holding the rest for higher. Now if we go into price discovery, if you miss this FOMO move, just be patient. As I mentioned, the highs always come and get retested. So just wait for that retest of the highs and then place your bids there. So if we get another candle as such, right, place your bids at the retest level and then we go higher. Okay, so I'm happy with my position right now. These would be the areas to add. If we close above here, let's say we come back down to retest, maybe you can add more there. It's just too close to our or to the average or to the current price. So that's why I want to add more in our demand zone here. All right. Again, I'm looking for new all-time highs on this. I personally was expecting a 30 to 50% move. 30% move from our entry would be back at the all-time highs, but I'm actually raising it to about 0.0004. Okay, now doesn't mean it's going to hit. If you're in profits, take profit whenever you're happy, and just play it. Play levels to the levels. Okay, and then Dogecoin. Okay, so we were up about 15% from our entry, from when I gave it. Okay, TP1 was off by like a few thousandths of a penny. Okay, so I am looking for. I don't think we get a dip back into here, but I would love to add to my position around this order block. I'm going to remove this. These levels have changed now. So we have this liquidity. I will add more at 15.2 cents. Okay, and then 14.539. I have personally trimmed myself a little bit, and as we see here, here is a trend line. Okay, we can come back down, wick into here. If we close below, whoops, if we close below and then go reject the trend line and come back down, then I will close more out. But we just want to see that trend line hold, and we do not want a break of structure or market structure shift from a uptrend making higher highs, higher lows into a downtrend making lower highs and lower lows. Okay, so keep your eyes out on that. But I'm expecting a move into, if Dogecoins actually do run, then I mean, with the ETH ETF and the inflow, right, and how accessible crypto is, and people, putting their focus back into crypto, what is more like enticing than going into the ultra meme, the original, coin that all the retail traders get into, and that's Dogecoin. All right. So again, I'm expecting a move down. Hopefully we get these bids filled. TP1 is approaching. I will add more to my position if this level here is flipped to support. Okay. I will add more there and then target TP2. Right. Okay. The last two coins we'll take a look at are the other ETH betas. So Optimism OP. Now, this is the definition of a true shitcoin. I'm not trading this coin personally, but as we saw, when ETH had that big move, this coin did run 20%. So if ETH does continue to run, this will have a big move as well. Now, this coin is currently having marital problems and hugging the trend line. Okay, the more touches of support or a trend line, the bearish it's going to be. Now we can say that this looks like a bear flag as well, and depending on how you want to draw your bear flag targets from which impulse, let's take this impulse down to here, right? This looks like it wants sub $1. Now these are just technical targets, don't be alarmed, okay? We have demand and order block here. We haven't fully filled it. So I personally will go for this one because this one has not been tested as much as this one has. Okay. So any bids, if ETH were to come back down, any bids from $2.25 down to this support line here, basically $2.06, are for buying. Now, this is a very crucial area to hold, okay? Because if we do turn this into resistance, we're going sub $1, all right? So entries around here down to here, and then if ETH were to run from that point, from 36 whatever, then you should get a nice move up. Now, the boss level for LDO comes around this level here. Okay, clear resistance, we have not flipped it. If this is flipped, right, we have a break of structure, and then we should go higher, right? Because if this was our last, here is your higher high, right? Lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high, lower low, lower high. Here, we have our first high, but we haven't broken above this, so that we don't have a break of structure yet. Although we have this, right? This was our last lower high. So until we get a break above here, I'm not looking to long until we get that pullback, put in another higher low, and then continue up. This is still in a downtrend, which is why I think if ETH gets that move down, this is where you bid. Okay, daily and closures below here turning to resistance is a manual cut. Okay, because I'm a spot trader, that's how I trade. I will wait for high time frame levels to be turned into support or resistance before making that cut if I'm holding, right? So that's what I'm looking for OP. I'm not looking to long the mid range. Either give me my bids here, and if I were taking it, any trade that I take will be publicly made in the Discord. Otherwise, assume I'm not taking it. So bids here down to here, and then target, higher than the supply zone. Okay. And then last but not least, LDO. Okay. So if we were to draw a downtrend here, right? We had a clear rejection from this downtrend. Here is another crucial point, right? We broke out, we flipped it to support, right? Broke down deviation, and then here was our first test of that SR point. We broke down again, right? We never retested the resistance to make sure it was actually resistance until here. Okay, so if we're looking at entries for LDO, I'd be looking at this demand zone here. And again, this coin ran when ETH did. Okay, ETH gave that huge candle. This coin gave a 43% move, right? Now, if we were to draw some fibs and find some extra confluence, okay, bids around here would be an SR point, right? We broke out, but we never retested this level. And then further bids would be at the golden pocket, right? So 1.96, and then if you want your final bid, this 786 fib hopefully puts in a triple bottom tap or a triple tap here, right? Let's say we get this bid filled, come back down, and then we put in a triple bottom, and then target first TP would come at the resistance downtrend, right? You might get rejected here again, but if this comes and flips, then the first TP would come around 2.6. Hopefully ETH continues to run. This gets a breakout, right? Targeting this falling wedge breakout would give you a, depending on where it breaks out and retests successfully, let's say it's here, right? We run to its all-time highs. Okay, so these coins typically run well when ETH runs. So if we are able to get the bottom or close to the bottom of ETH, and you get the bottom of these coins and they all run, or if ETH runs, then you will have a nice return on these coins. Okay, so start your entries from 2.22, $2.22, average down to $1.75, and then hopefully ETH continues to run and you get a nice 35 to 40% move from your current average of probably like $1.80, right, to that high. Okay, so these are the coins that I'm currently looking at. Any plays that I take, I know most of these coins I'm already in and positioned already, but any plays that I take will be given in the Discords and in the channels. All right. Thanks everyone for watching. I will catch you guys later.